Hi folks, the Filipina P here, telling it like it is. Now, it's not always the case that when a man relocates to the Philippines, he ends up with a younger woman. But in a majority of cases, there's at least a few years gap between you and the Filipina you might be considering. Even if it's just a 10-year difference, a lot of guys seem to struggle with the nagging question, can I still keep up with a younger girlfriend? What is she gonna expect, both in and out of the bedroom? So let's just say you're the average guy sitting there in your Western country watching this video. Chances are you've had a few relationships already, and perhaps a few divorces. Maybe you've been burned so badly or watched your friends go through hell that you're a little gun shy about starting over. But when you take stock of your life, you realize that the only thing that's really missing is the companionship, love, and respect of a good woman. The problem is, there's not a lot out there for you to choose from. Women in their 40s and 50s and 60s are convincing themselves they really don't need a man in that stage of their lives. And the things that are still important to you are not quite so important to them, if you know what I mean. They're divorcing their husbands in record numbers. So, why in the world would you want to get back on that treadmill? And unless you're exceptionally good looking or unusually wealthy, the younger women in your society treat you like the plague. By the time you reach your 50s, you've somehow become creepy for no other reason than a few extra pages turned off the calendar. You're the exact same man you always were on the inside, but somehow that doesn't seem to matter anymore. You feel discarded and invisible. If only you had a time machine and you could go back a few decades to when you were still seen as a catch, but you got to keep all the knowledge you accumulated. Wouldn't it be cool to have a chance to start over and play by your rules this time? Yep, all you need is a time machine. Or you could do what thousands of other guys are doing and find a place where you really can turn back the clock to a time when you were appreciated, simply by going to a place where they see things differently. Now, I'm not here to tell you that the Philippines is a panacea for all your life's problems, but I am here to tell you that if you're looking for another shot at the life you always wanted, the Philippines isn't a bad place to look. So maybe you're at a point where you can consider it, and you probably heard that the women here are less inclined to disqualify you due to your age. But once you wrap your head around the possibility, there's still a whole host of nagging doubts about having a relationship with a younger Filipina. And that's what this video is about. If you met a woman online, you might have a fear that when you actually get together, she'll see you as physically diminished, not what she was expecting, and unable to provide her with the quality of companionship she was counting on. You might almost feel foolish that you nearly convinced yourself that the relationship could even work, and that once she gets to spend time with the real you, she'll quickly get tired of putting up with all your shortcomings and realize she needs a younger man to please her. Well, let's take a look at those doubts one by one and compare them to what you're likely to experience. Whether you're male or female, young or old, gorgeous or not so gorgeous, everyone has their insecurities about their body. Women are masters at finding picky little things to hate about ourselves, so it's only natural that you guys would be haunted by the same demons. I totally understand that when you look in the mirror, you automatically compare the guy looking back at you with the younger version of yourself, the version you remember in perfect detail, and you're painfully aware of the differences. Maybe your hair decided to move south for the winter, leaving the top of your head and taking up residence in your ears. Your eyes aren't as bright and piercing as they once were. And when a young Filipina compliments them, your first thought is, oh, if only you could have seen them 20 years ago. You might also be downplaying the fact that you're virtually deaf in one ear, and your eyesight is getting to the point where you can't count the growing number of candles on your birthday cake. And who wants a guy that groans every time he gets out of his easy chair and tries to stand up without sounding like he's in pain, right? I could go on, but hopefully I've made my point without having to inflict any more discomfort. The point is, You're probably convinced that any sizable age gap between you and your partner automatically means that sacrifices are being made on her part, and she couldn't possibly be attracted to the current version of you. But once again, this is where you're looking at things in Western terms. Now, people are gonna say, oh, bullcrap. It's just pure biology that a woman prefers a hot guy. A young woman doesn't have a poster of an old man on her bedroom wall. Yep, that's absolutely true of both sexes. Just like you'd prefer a poster of Margot Robbie to one of Roseanne Barr. But does that really mean that you can't be perfectly happy with someone in between? I know that guys are visual creatures, but are looks the only important thing to you? Of course not. So why would it be any different for us since we're even less hung up on our partner's looks than you are? On top of that, this culture has a different attitude towards age. Older people are respected here, and mature men aren't automatically put out to pasture. No matter how hard you find it to believe, a guy who's 20 or 30 years older can still be considered very attractive. It might not be something you accept in the West, but I assure you, it's a real thing here. You can be physically appealing enough to keep a younger woman interested. And as you age, we age with you. And yes, even a younger Filipina knows the implications of aging. We're surrounded by it because we always end up caring for our older relatives. Unlike in the West, where it's not uncommon to stick a senior citizen out of sight and out of mind in a nursing home, we don't have those here and couldn't afford them if we did. Instead, Filipinos care for our elderly right there at home until the end of their days. We know all the stages of the aging process firsthand, so we have a realistic idea what we're looking at and what lies ahead. That doesn't scare us. It doesn't make us go, ew. And if a Filipino vows to stay with you till the end, she usually means it. Now, a lot of men say, but how am I gonna physically keep up? I'm sure she's gonna wanna go hiking, biking, and dancing till dawn. I don't have the stamina I used to. And sometimes I have trouble with my trick knee or my arthritis. My range of physical abilities is getting narrower, and there's stuff I just can't do anymore. Like that double flip in a trampoline I was so proud of in my younger years. What will she think of me when I have to sit down every few minutes to catch my breath? Does she get that I'm not 30 anymore? And I understand why you're bothered by this stuff. I'd be self conscious too if I were dating a much younger man and felt like I had to compete with a bunch of 18-year-olds. Every time he even looked at one, I'd assume I knew what he was thinking, even if he didn't say it. But it's important that you don't compare things here to your life in the West, where everything is go, go, go. Filipinos aren't always looking for the next thrill when it comes to physical activity. In fact, unless you live in a bigger city, there's not really that much to do here anyway. In your home country, the question, what do you want to do today, actually has a lot of possible answers, from attending a murder mystery dinner theater or playing laser tag or going to an amusement park. Not that you really did those things much, but at least you had a lot of options. Look at most of the couples here, even young Filipino couples, and you'll see that our lives are very different, more like a slow day in Mayberry.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Down the filling station, get me a bottle of pop. Home, take a nap. And then go over to Thelma Blues and watch a little TV.
And that's about it. No running from place to place at 90 miles an hour with your hair on fire. In fact, most Filipinos prefer to just sit around a lot. We probably sit in one spot more than any other people on the planet. Just give the guys a beer and give the women a cell phone, and we ain't going anywhere unless you drag us. Now, that might be heaven to you, or it might be hell. You can certainly be as active as you want, but the point is, you don't have to be, and your Filipino won't hold it against you. She'll be just fine with a pace of life that most Western women would consider unfulfilling and impossibly boring. Most Filipinas just want to lay in your arms, and you'll never once feel like you have to entertain her. She won't expect you to do a darn thing, and yet the words "I'm bored" will never pass her lips. An expat friend I know once said something really simple but deceptively profound. The secret to happiness is learning how to enjoy the passage of time, which is something Filipinos have mastered. We probably invented the slow paced life, and you'll fit in just fine if that's your thing. And finally, that brings us to the subject you've all been waiting for, the topic of sex. Performance issues are typical for guys of any age, but the anxiety can double when you're worrying about keeping up with a woman half your age. Older guys have written me and said, "Hey, I've been out of the dating pool for over a decade, and I'm really not sure I can keep her satisfied at my age." Well, let me assure you that unless your equipment is completely beyond repair, you'll be just fine. As it turns out, Filipino couples often don't have a lot of sex anyway. We sometimes have a dozen other people in the house with us, so finding time to be intimate can be tricky business. And even when we do get the opportunity, it's often just the fundamentals. As a result, many of us are either inexperienced or only know the basics. I was talking to a neighbor of mine, a 42-year-old who's been married for 20 years, and she confessed that she had never had a big O. She's heard of them, but she didn't think she'd ever had one. I said, "Oh, you'd know if you had one." And I saw a look of resigned disappointment on her face. The sad thing is, she's not alone. I know of several other women in the same situation, women whose pleasure was never a marital priority. So, no, the local men don't possess any Kama Sutra like knowledge that's gonna make you look bad. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. Western men have the reputation of being a jack of all trades when it comes to bedroom business. It's not only the equipment you bring to the job, it's the great work ethic you have when it comes to getting the job done, and you always seem to leave the customer satisfied with your service. I don't know if it's because you care more or if Western women expect more, but I've rarely heard a Filipina with a Western partner complaining about that part of the relationship. But what about loss of desire or diminished performance? What if things don't quite work as well as they used to? Well, even though men can often perform in the bedroom their entire lives, their appetites generally decrease a little with age, and some men I've talked to are concerned they won't measure up. Some of you really like the idea of having a loving companion, but aren't as interested in the sexual side of things, at least not to the degree that your girlfriend is probably gonna be, and you worry about keeping her satisfied. Well, if you're not feeling very frisky anymore or experiencing a failure to launch, just remember there are other ways to please a woman. Ways that very few Filipino men seem to have discovered. In this case, as long as she reaches the desired destination, the mode of transportation used to get there isn't an issue. While I hate to compare bedroom activity to a chore, if you are used to spending 30 minutes a week mowing your lawn, then you can spend at least that much time every week mowing hers. And getting a few blades of grass stuck in the teeth of your mower is a small price to pay for keeping her vegetation happy and healthy. So even if you feel like you're past your prime, there's no reason why you can't be everything she wants and needs, and then some. But there's a surprising phenomenon you might experience when you're in a relationship with a younger Filipina. If you could bottle it, you'd be the richest man on earth. Talk to almost any foreign visitor, and he'll tell you that once you get to the Philippines, it feels like you drank a potion straight from the fountain of youth. Suddenly, you're no longer invisible, and you know it. You feel like your old self, younger, more attractive, and more alive than you've felt in years. The sudden burst of energy is an effective cure for your worries about any age gap, and you'll quickly realize that the real question is, can a young Filipina keep up with you? Well, that's it for this episode, but I'll be back in just 3 days with another video worth watching. Till next time, folks. If you think about it, I'm kind of like the girl next door. No costumes, no superpowers, just someone who keeps their eyes and ears open and knows how to get you the information you need when trying to learn about life in the Philippines. I'm familiar with Western culture and I know my own, so I can be a valuable resource when it comes to all things Filipino. If you enjoy my channel and want to help it grow, Please hit the thumbs up button on this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and consider checking out my Patreon page, where you'll find extra content and exclusive videos and features. You can rest assured that I'll be bringing you fresh, high-quality content twice a week. And while you're waiting for the next one, check out some of my other videos as well. See you around the neighborhood. Oh, I almost forgot. Can I borrow a cup of sugar?